CR101radio.com, podcasts, and more.
23. Religious hypochondriacs. At some time or other, you have probably known a hypochondriac who spent all his time worrying about his health. If the hypochondriac hears about someone's sickness or a new disease, he begins to imagine that he has all the symptoms himself. I heard once of one man who carried a medical thermometer and regularly took his temperature, always fearful of some germ or other. This is an extreme case, of course, but in one form or another, the hypochondriac is familiar to most of us. There are, however, religious hypochondriacs as well. They spend their time endlessly taking their spiritual temperature, worrying about imagined sins and persistently fretting about real ones. Such religious hypochondriacs are so absorbed with their spiritual condition that they accomplish next to nothing in applying the faith. One Catholic who wearied all his confessors with his endless use of the confessional was indignant on being told by a priest that sin would be less a problem if obedience were as great a concern to him as sinning was. A Protestant woman who neglected her ordinary household duties to fret over her sins became a deadly and vicious enemy to her pastor when he suggested that growth as a Christian would come more readily by doing her daily duties than by fretting over her spiritual quote-unquote problems. Just as some hypochondriacs, to see perhaps whether they are alive or not, are given to taking their own pulse, so the religious hypochondriacs are always taking their spiritual pulse. The hypochondriac who worries over his health has quote-unquote mental problems. So too the religious hypochondriac is also quote-unquote sick. In both cases, there is a preference for anything other than health. There is an absorption with what is wrong rather than a concern for what true health requires. Our Lord declared, quote, "Which of you by taking thought can add 1 cubit unto his stature?" Matthew 6:27. And who by fretting can overcome poor health or overcome sins? Moreover, quote, "A good tree cannot bring forth evil fruit, neither can a corrupt tree bring forth good fruit." Matthew 7:18. A man who through Christ has redemption has peace with God. He enjoys good spiritual health and brings forth fruit or results in terms of it. He does not fret. He acts and produces. The religious hypochondriac acts as though he is more sensitive and hence more superior. In reality, he reveals that they lack, quote, "the peaceable fruit of righteousness," Hebrews 12:11, which is a product of God's redeeming and chastening work in our lives.